let's get on to the stories of the day. Welcome to Mindful Live 56. It is the 21st of March. Monday, the 21st of March. Welcome to Mindful Live number 56. I am Nathan Springer, your host for Mindful Live. Who else would it be? Oh, wow. YouTube is playing strong over there. Welcome to all of you over on Instagram and TikTok and also on YouTube. If you are taking in the live over on TikTok or Instagram, as per usual, if you ever missed any one of the lives and you like to go see what we talk about in the previous lives, you can feel free to go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer, over on YouTube, and you can catch all 55 of the other Mindful Lives and see what it is we spoke about previously. Catch up on it. But this is Mindful Live number 56, and what we're going to talk about today has to do with the former Attorney General of my island, my twin island republic, Trinidad and Tobago. The former Attorney General that some people are saying was demoted to a new portfolio of being the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. No, not just local government. There are two ministries there. It's a double portfolio, local government and rural development. Now, as I've said previously, I dislike the notion where you're attempting to make it seem like somehow local government and rural development is less important than the Attorney General. I do not like that. I think local government is a preeminent ministry and it's very important and we should take it seriously. Hey, I'm seeing people are starting to come in. It seems like we've now noticed, hey, the live is going on, it's just a little late. Welcome sir, welcome Hex and Pie, King Kaka. You know how long me and watch a live, it's been a while for real. What is this, Empress Roni? It is alive, and to say it again for those now taking it in and now coming in, this is just the alternative background, the alternative studio due to some imminent technical difficulties in the previous studio. So I am here now for the moment, and the change was part of the reason we started late, but we are here now. This is what matters. Welcome to Mindful Live number 56. So yes, the former Attorney General, and people were saying that he was demoted, etc., etc. Now, as I said, I dislike that notion. Local government is very important, but it is also very curious, I must admit, finding out why exactly was he moved. Local government is important, but if you were doing a good job at your previous post, why would you be moved? That is curious. And I don't know if these stories are somehow attempting to tell you the reason he was moved, but they are telling you something. They are telling us something. I like that shelf Sir says. Well, here's the Sir. Do you know that I made this shelf myself with my own hands? Yes. This shelf is a creation of mine. There's a nice story behind it. Maybe someday we may talk about that story. Maybe someday. Good night, Blue Zaboka. Glenja, good night. Vanna, good night. Good night, everyone. So yes, I am not exactly sure what these stories are attempting to say. They could nearly seem like they're trying to point at a reason why he was moved from this post, but you never know for sure, especially when you're talking about politics. So let's get into what these stories are saying. Faris' last act. On the day he was removed as Attorney General, Al-Rawi wrote Chief Justice Archie requesting that his right-hand legal man be suspended for insubordination, breach of his duty to cooperate, and breach of duty to maintain trust and confidence. In his waning moments as Attorney General, Faris Al-Rawi wrote Chief Justice Ivor Archie in his capacity as Chairman of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, requesting the suspension of Chief Parliamentary Counsel Ian McIntyre. McIntyre is one of the most senior legal officers in the Ministry of the Attorney General. This action was unprecedented, but was the culmination of the serious rift that had developed between the then Attorney General and the state's chief legal draftsman. Several attempts by the Sunday Express to contact Al-Rawi were unsuccessful, obviously. Al-Rawi went to the cabinet last Wednesday before the cabinet reshuffle was announced with one thing on his mind: to advise the cabinet of the action he had taken. It was to be his last deed as Attorney General. In fact, when he advised the cabinet of his action, unbeknownst to him, he was already on the highway to local government and rural development. According to documents obtained by the Sunday Express, Al-Rawi and McIntyre had serious differences because Al-Rawi wanted McIntyre to ignore a time-honored rule of practice within the drafting profession of drafting bills and clear specific policy instructions emanating from the cabinet or the Prime Minister. So, the rundown of this story. Whoa, what wrong with my big bird? Your good friend like that? I am not sure. Is that Teakwood why you didn't pay the man? Pay who, man? What are you talking about, Sir Malcolm Lewis? You asked some very strange questions sometime in the live there. If you can talk about Clarence and what, yes, I do have that article pulled up too. Hopefully we can get to that. All right, it seems like the general idea that was going on here between the Attorney General and the draftsman of these bills was that the Attorney General wanted the draftsman to do it as he said. When I say for you to write a bill, when I tell you to drop a legal bill, it's to just draw it up. Don't ask anyone any more questions than that. Draw it up because I say so. This was a quote from the Attorney General in a strongly worded letter to Mr. McIntyre. As the Attorney General, the Constitution empowers my direction and control over the legislative drafting department, headed by the Chief Parliamentary Counsel. I am therefore constitutionally authorized to give instructions to your good self. Listen, nearly any time I see good self in official documents, in official letters or emails or anything, I cannot help but chuckle. The good self just seems so passive aggressive. Like, what could possibly be your reasoning for using the term good self beyond passive aggression? Constitutionally authorized to give instructions to your good self for the drafting of legislation. Likewise, you are constitutionally required to adhere to such instructions without reproach. In these circumstances, this letter serves to advise you that your continued refusal to follow my specific instructions and to instruct your department to follow cabinet-approved instructions only is in clear defiance of my role, function, and authority as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. So basically, what was going on? Blessed Night Schizo in the building over on YouTube. Nice to have you there. Good night, Quinn Trim. I'm doing well. Thanks for you all viewing over on YouTube too. That's nice. Good night to the viewers over on YouTube. Sometimes I know you all could be a little neglected. I don't often glimpse at the chat there, but nice having you over there too. But yes, it seems like the Attorney General wanted him to write up bills on his say-so. But this Chief Parliamentary Counsel is saying that, sir, this is not how I do things. This is not how the time-honored tradition goes. The time-honored tradition is that in order for me to write up a bill, I must see policy direction coming from the cabinet with cabinet approval and the signature of the Prime Minister. But the former Attorney General was saying that, sir, you do not need that. My say-so is all you need. I am in control of this department, and I say so, and you better do it, or else. Is Instagram up? Yes, Instagram is up and running. Haven't seen Schizo on the TikTok live in a while, but he is over there on the YouTube. So shady, Blue Zabuka says. Something seems a bit shady about it. Something is strange about it, to be frank. Yes. So what he further went on in the letter continued in that similar tone, and what he further went on to tell the CPC, the Chief Parliamentary Yeah, well, I'm off TikTok. We'll chill out from here from now on. That's cool, Schizo. What he was basically telling him is that from now on, you are to make sure and tell everyone in your department that they are to listen to me. And he said, should I not receive your acknowledgement that you are going to tell everyone to listen to me, then I'm going to write to the GLSC to make sure that they discipline you and suspend you. He threatened the man. That was basically the tenor of the letter. You listen to what I say or else. That was the tone of the letter. The letter was accompanied by the gazetted notice of Al-Rawi's appointment as Attorney General and the schedule of matters which fall under the assignment of responsibility for the Office of Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs. Al-Rawi's letter was copied to the Prime Minister, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Natasha Barrow, and the Deputy CPC, Ida Eversley. Now, I find it, I don't know if it was just information that Express was giving there, but something seems nearly mischievous. Something seems borderline mischievous about the fact that the Express, in identifying the letter, that the strongly worded letter that the former Attorney General wrote to the CPC, they made sure to let us know that in that letter, the letter was accompanied by the gazetted notice of Al-Rawi's appointment as Attorney General and the schedule of matters under his control. It's kind of funny. It is kind of funny because it's kind of poetic that after that strongly written letter, where you put your credentials as the accompaniment to this letter to show the power that this letter comes with, in swift time, those credentials are removed from you. And it is to note that this was not done unbeknownst or without the knowledge of the Prime Minister, because the letter was forwarded or copied to the Prime Minister too. So the Prime Minister knew this. And I wonder because this story doesn't give us this bit of information, and I don't know if anyone would have this information beside the Prime Minister himself or his close inner circle, but I wonder if knowledge of this action from the Attorney General had anything to do with the Prime Minister's decision in his reshuffling. I wonder. It's just curious. I don't know. It's just curious. But McIntyre stands his ground. On March 14th, 3 days after receiving the Attorney General's letter, McIntyre wrote to the Director of Personnel Administration, Corey Harrison, for onward transmission to and consideration by the GLSC. Now listen, I do not know the total facts of this situation. I am only seeing a tiny snippet into this thing. Change the cup to, well, yeah, I didn't have my other cup tonight, so I am using my wife's cup. Yeah, this is my wife's cup. Can you tell? I mean, one is all manly and has that strong black color with that cork finish, and then floral. But it is what it is. It still holds the coffee. Wow, Ria. Wow. Anyway, so I don't know the whole innate nature of this story. I don't know everything inside of this story. I do not know who is totally wrong, who is totally right. But I will give McIntyre some props. This man seems to know the system, because when this man got this letter, he didn't stick. He made sure he sent out a letter on the other side. To the Director of Personnel Administration. And he wanted that letter copied to the GLSC. Now, that's important because the GLSC is the same group that the Attorney General is threatening to carry his complaint to. So he already cut that out ahead. Listen, the GLSC already knows. So you could write your letter. I already wrote before. I'm not going through that with you. Yeah, putting his concerns about the Attorney General's approach in writing. McIntyre said he was constrained to report to the JLSC the current impasse between the Attorney General and himself, which had serious implications for good governance, the best interests of the Legislative Drafting Department, and the capability and efficiency of all ministries and departments in relation to the preparation of well-written comprehensive notes for Cabinet to obtain Cabinet's timely approval of policy instructions for the drafting of legislation. I would therefore be grateful if you would bring this letter to the attention of all members of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, please. The letter he wrote to the CPC stated. Now, I don't know everything inside of there, as I keep stating, but this seems to make sense to me. This guy is saying, the CPC is saying, listen, time-honored tradition says, before we start, and here's the department that they are in. Here's the department they are in. The department they are in is the drafting of legal bills. They're drafting legal bills. This isn't a place to play games and make mistakes. This isn't a place to avoid procedure. I think the drafting of legal bills might be one of the places to keep probably most precisely to procedure. Legal bills need to be pretty precise to work. That's the nature of them. The efficacy of them is literally there in the wording and the writing of these documents. And Mr. CPC is saying, sir, I am not taking your word to draft anything. The time-honored tradition of procedure here is the Cabinet prepares a note, the Prime Minister sends it out, and then we draft on that. The issue, he said, was whether the Chief Parliamentary Counsel and other officers in the Legislative Drafting Department were entitled to require Cabinet-approved policy instructions as the proper authority for the drafting of legislation, or whether the Chief Parliamentary Counsel was obliged to draft or to direct officers to draft legislation on the basis of oral or other instructions issued by the Attorney General. Listen, I agree with the man. Again, I don't know for sure the whole thing inside of there. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I could be wrong. But the man is saying that what the Attorney General wanted was basically that they would draft documents, not only on his written say-so, but even on his oral say-so. And somehow I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea that our former Attorney General could have gone in to our legal drafting department and just on his word say something and they have to draft it into bills. I kind of agree with the guy. That just doesn't sound like good procedure for a legal department, a legal drafting department. It sounds like you'd want something with a more solid paper trail than that. The CPC noted that the Attorney General, now bear in mind this would be the former Attorney General's, preferred modus operandi of drafting legislation without Cabinet-approved instruction and retrofitting the policy to reflect the draft legislation was inconsistent with the well-established convention on which the CPC and the department had been operating for decades. It should be noted that the practice of drafting legislation on the basis of Cabinet-approved policy instructions is a long-established and well-known principle and practice in Trinidad and Tobago and the Commonwealth. So he says he has tradition and practice on his side. A little dictatorial much, sir, says he feels he is Prime Minister. Well, it could have seemed so. It could have legitimately seemed so. All right. Let me see. I just want to get more into this to see at least what the CPC's view of the Attorney General was, because I think this is important. I'm harping on it and reading in a bit more. I am constrained to bring this matter, this is the CPC speaking here, or writing, to the attention of the Judicial and Legal Services because the Attorney General strongly disagrees with the position taken by the Legal Drafting Department, Legislative Drafting Department, and has threatened to initiate disciplinary action against the CPC for my refusal to draft legislation without Cabinet-approved policy instructions in relation to a matter which falls under the portfolio of the Minister of National Security. The Ministry of National Security is primarily responsible for developing the policy and seeking the approval of the Cabinet. The Attorney General intends, however, to bypass the roles and responsibilities of the Cabinet, the Minister of National Security, and the Permanent Secretary and the Head Legal of the Ministry of National Security in order to force the Legislative Drafting Department to produce a bill before the policy development and approval stage has been completed. I don't understand this. I don't understand this. Here's the thing I don't understand about this. The Attorney General is part of the same government as the Ministry and the Minister of National Security, and the same government as the Prime Minister too. The Cabinet is the same government as the Attorney General. So why would the former Attorney General want to bypass the Cabinet to make a bill based on only his say-so without getting Cabinet approval first? I don't understand that. How Faris even got the AG position in the first place? So many politicians have their qualifications in law. Why him? I don't know. He's a lawyer and they wanted that lawyer. I don't know. But I just find that very curious. I honestly find that very curious. You call that, Nico Ben over on Instagram says, you call that power hungry without proper communication. Someone wants to be boss over a department. Well, that has to be some real crazy levels of power hunger. Because why? You are in the same government. I would suppose whatever bill you are attempting to get them to draft, the government would agree with that on the policy basis, because even the CPC is saying basically that what the Attorney General intends is for them to draft the bill first and then, as it were, backdate it into the policy. But why? Is it just that some people don't want to do the work of going through the entire policy statement? Is it it a way of shortcutting the work? Is it a way of somebody being lazy and not wanting to have to go out there and do these extra steps? What exactly is it? This is confusing to me. It honestly is. He wanted Faris law. But here's the thing. It's not even like after he gets the legislative department to draft something that it's automatically going to become law. That's not even how it works. This would then have to go to Parliament and his own cabinet would have to debate it and pass it. So again, why not seek the cabinet approval to get it in a cabinet note before? I just don't get it. Even though I also understand that sometimes cabinet members, when a bill reaches the floor, they don't have to read it. So it could be that the Attorney General was trying to get this entire thing written up without getting cabinet involved because they don't care, and they would never actually have to read the documents and never actually have to go through the work of getting it done. But then, if we are going down that conspiratorial kind of line where we're saying that what he was doing here was actually helping the cabinet be lazy, then why would he then be replaced for that? They would be okay with that. So if that happens, they would be fine. So again, I don't understand what is going on here. Some part of this story still seems to be missing to me. He's a lawyer that you can manipulate and help manipulate. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't see a logical pathway for this decision. I just don't. It's confusing to me. The demands and threats of the Attorney General constitute, in my estimation, the type of undue political pressure from which the Judicial and Legal Service Commission and Section 136 of the Constitution are designed to insulate the Chief Parliamentary Council, all Parliamentary Council, and other officers under its jurisdiction, and it is for this reason that I have brought this matter to the attention of the Commission, McIntyre added. So he was seeing this as being a problem with undue political pressure on his office. Now, this angle nearly makes you want to wonder if it was all agreed with by the government, but it was only when McIntyre, this is conspiratorial. Again, I'm reading the sand here. I'm guessing here because something doesn't quite add up. If the government wanted a bill passed, they wanted a bill written up, but they didn't want the entire cabinet to go through this entire thing. They wanted it sped up, fast-tracked through the process. And they allotted the Attorney General with getting this done. Because bear in mind, the Attorney General did copy his letter to the Prime Minister, so the Prime Minister knew ahead that all of this was going on. But then, if after they were trying to get it done by that process, this is if when the CPC pelt out his letter on the 14th saying that, hey, he sent out a letter to the JLSC telling them, hey, I am under undue political pressure now from the Attorney General, and he pointed his finger directly. If it is now that they removed him to just remove this thing from being an issue at all, so now he's no longer Attorney General, so this issue that was raised by the CPC is no longer an issue. Forget about that. Forget about what we even asked you to do. So everything is gone now. So I am curious if this undue political pressure that was being placed on the CPC was actually coming from the government itself. It wasn't the former Attorney General gone rogue and acting on his own accord, because again, the legal document is going to have to go back to the same parliamentarians to be passed. So what if he was acting on behalf of the government to just try to get this thing fast-tracked? And then when the CPC said, well, I am not going to do this and I'm going to write a letter to complain on my own, and he sent out that letter, that the proverbial tatter hit the fan, and well, let's clear this guy, bring in a new guy, and forget about this entire thing. Curious to me. It's very curious to me. All right. But further than that now, since the Attorney General has been removed, the Chief Parliamentary Council's lawyer wants Armour to dump Faris's complaint. But listen to something very curious to add to this story. Listen, hear this first line of this story. So I'm reading here. Chief Parliamentary Counsel Ian McIntyre's legal representative Anand Ramlogan has called on new Attorney General Reginald Armour to withdraw the March 16th letter in which his predecessor, Faris Al-Rawi, sought disciplinary action against McIntyre the day Al-Rawi was removed as Attorney General. You all notice something very interesting there, though? That's curious. That's curious to me. Very. Chief Parliamentary Counsel Ian McIntyre's legal representative Anand Ramlogan has called on new Attorney General Reginald Armour to withdraw the complaint. Very curious. Is that curious to anyone else? Anyone else finds that curious? I don't know. I just find that extremely curious. Curtly says Anand back for Faris again. Now, it's not just Anand back for Faris. It's not just Anand back for Faris. Because Anand doesn't choose to go represent this person. This person chooses Mr. Anand. Me and Mr. Anand never pitched marbles. Me and him aren't on first name basis. Mr. Ram Logan. Mr. Ram Logan didn't choose to be his legal counsel. He chose him. So I find it very curious that while you are in a bit of a spat with the Attorney General, the legal counsel you choose is the former Attorney General that is also in some curious quarrels with him. Now, here's a curious addition to this. What the CPC is accusing the former Attorney General of trying to influence him on is something to do with a bill coming from national security. Now, this current government, in case you don't know, are on a serious concerted effort to try to nab some of the former government officials who have been accused of gross wrongdoings. But in order to do so, and the former Attorney General has said it on numerous occasions, the Stuart Young, I believe, our Minister of Everything, he has hinted that on numerous occasions also, that what they are trying to do is build up their legal argument for this. And they may need to pass certain laws before some of these things can take place. So, isn't it curious that the former Attorney General was attempting to get a bill drafted, something from national security, without proper long procedure? He was attempting to get that fast-tracked through and attempting to get the legal drafting, the legislative drafting department to do it on his say-so, as quick as possible, I guess. And they refused. But the same CPC that heads that department takes a former Attorney General who is reputed to be the target of some of these same new legislations that are to be drafted as his legal representative in this matter. It's all just very curious to me. Now, I don't know what all of this points at directly. I cannot say. I just don't know. But I find it very curious. It is all very curious. The names and everything. Like, if you were choosing someone in this, why would you choose him as your legal counsel? I mean, I'm sure Mr. Ram Logan is well known as a legal representative. He has some pedigree as a legal representative. He is a senior counsel after all. Good night, Richard Glubman. But he also has some baggage along with his name. And I'm sure someone of the ilk and stature of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel would be very much aware of all the negative associations there may be with the former Attorney General. No, he's not a Queen's Counsel as far as I know. He's senior counsel. Silk. It's all very interesting to me. It's all very interesting. But he is calling on this new Attorney General to cancel this complaint and remove the complaint, etc., etc. I'll be interested to see whether the complaint is removed. That will be interesting to me. I'm curious. Whether it is removed or not may tell us a little more about the facts surrounding this story that seem to be very obscure right now. The fact that so many lawyers got rich after winning matters against the state. Yeah. And it's kind of ridiculous to me to see lawyers that were in charge of making good laws for our state. They were there to make good laws for our state. When they are moved from that position, turn around and sue the state for bad laws and incorrect acting in the procedure that they were in charge of. I find that ridiculous, really and truly. That is horrible. It's like a former health minister who was in charge of our public health sector. He was in charge for a while. And then when he was removed, he went into his private practice and advertised having the only machine of its kind in his private practice. The only machine of its kind to do something. And I'm thinking to myself, how ridiculously selfish is that? You are very much aware that there's nowhere else with the machine like this. You are very much aware there's a need for it. You are in the public healthcare system. You didn't acquire the machine there, then go into your private practice and boast that you have the only place where that machine is. That is so ridiculous. These people. If you think that you are their primary interest, I have a bridge to sell you. If you think you are their primary interest, do not put your hopes in any of those politicians. You'd be sorely disappointed. But it seems like the political activity is heating up as the local government elections are coming in. And it's heating up on the PNM side. You're seeing some complaints coming out of the PNM too. But I think it is heating up a little more on the UNC side, at least of late. Former member of Munilal's internal election slate slams UNC on Carney matter. Devika Thomas, not so UNC, Devika Thomas, who contested a post on a slate with the United National Congress MP Dr. Rudal Munilal in 2015, has slammed the party's lack of attention to the plight of former Carney workers. Thomas was part of a non-political group which included UNC members named ex-Carney Workers Reunited, who clashed with UNC's Women's Arm members at the Diwali Nagar Shagona site last Sunday. Both groups clashed while mounting calls for justice on different issues. We'll get into the clash just now. UNC MP David Lee, who complained it was the second time Thomas's group had been at the same place during a UNC protest, asked if former UNC Minister Vasant Bharat was behind this thing. Now, I think some of this are the chickens coming home to roost for the UNC. The UNC has used negative campaigning for a very long time. It has been their general modus operandi. Now, I could understand why. They have been the perpetual opposition. So, abolish need to infinity Ultron says. Okay, sir. But they have been the perpetual opposition. So, you could understand they are always the opposition. So, they are always opposing what the government, the PNM, says. So, the UNC's general election mantra has been the PNM is horrible. And people seem to fall for this every time, and I find it kind of ridiculous. Manning is a dictator, he's a horrible person. Manning the dictator, he's a horrible person. Manning the dictator, he's a horrible person. Manning the dictator, he's a horrible person. Look, even Rowley don't like Manning. Look what Rowley is saying about Manning. Manning is a horrible person. Manning is a horrible person. Manning is a horrible person. The devil incarnate is Manning. Manning removes, Rowley comes into position. Now, if you are following politics before that, the UNC actually said good things about Rowley before that. But then, all of a sudden, Rowley comes in. Rowley's a dictator, a horrible person, the devil incarnate. Rowley's a dictator, a horrible person, the devil incarnate. Manning was better about Rowley. Look what Manning himself said about Rowley. Manning was better. I wish back for Manning again. Look at this devil incarnate. Rowley's a horrible... Refuse to even call Dr. Rowley by doctor, etc., etc. It's a very negative campaign style. But it's politics. Understandable. But here's the thing. When you feed your base this becomes the culture of your party. So UNC internal government elections also get extremely bitter very often. Very often it gets extremely bitter. So when they end up with internal struggles, it often goes down that bitter road because that's the culture of their politics, where it's that negative politics. You could disagree with with it if you want, but this is just the way I see it looking on from the outside. Now, it's not that the PNM doesn't engage in negative politics also, especially in the last Tobago election. They for sure engaged in that. But by and large, regularly, the PNM attempts to sell us more with their structure. The PNM is an institution with X amount of years that we would provide you with this stable structure for governance and etc. 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 That's their sale, and that the UNC is incapable of providing that. Very often that's the sale. Obviously they go into the negatives also, but it seems to me that seems much more concerted on the UNC side. As I said, I believe it could be partly because they were perpetually the opposition, but it's just the reality as it stands. And it's what happens here too. They're saying that Vasant Bharat is behind this for some reason. He claimed Thomas had wanted to go up against him in a UNC party election. Bharat unsuccessfully challenged UNC leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar for the leadership in 2020. Yesterday, Bharat said, "I have absolutely nothing to do with any such activity. Why are they calling my name? Are they so afraid of me? After 7 years, they still continue to make excuses for their own incompetence by deflecting their own failings onto others. The UNC is still participating in 1960 style politics. TNT's rejected that out of hand already." Now, whether Vasant Bharat could ever win in the UNC, I don't know. But that line of speaking is much more appealing to a wider population than the general narratives that the typical UNC push. If any one of you belong to the UNC inside the live, just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Ria says they have a culture that can only be changed once leadership changes and its vision, mission, and objectives are redone or made clear. I agree. Now, what happened in that Caroni incident? Clash over Caroni lands as ex-sugar workers storm UNC women's protest. Members of the opposition UNC clashed with ex-Caroni Limited workers during a march organized by the former Women's Arm in Shogunas on Sunday. The clash saw heated verbal exchanges between the ex-workers and UNC members, including St. Augustine MPs Khadija Amin and opposition Senator Jayanti Loch-Medial. A placard of a former worker being torn to pieces and police officers having to separate the two groups. When the altercation ended, members of each group openly complained to the media about the behaviors of the other. The UNC Women's Arm held the march to demand justice for the 4 divers who died in an incident at the Paria Fuel Trading Company's Point-of-Pay compound, and for victims of crime. A large group of UNC supporters dressed in white and holding placards headed north from their meeting place on Narsalu Ramaya Road, Shogunas, around 7:35 a.m. while they were marching a maxi taxi carrying some people wearing black and carrying placards of their own past them. While Couva South MP Rudranath Indar Singh was addressing UNC supporters, a handful of people wearing black clothing and bearing placards which criticized the party for doing nothing to help former Caroni workers mingled with UNC supporters. One former worker held a placard which said, "Kamla, are you sleeping? Wake up." Amin was holding a placard of her own, had an altercation with one of the protesters in black, who later identified herself to reporters as Devika Thomas. Now, you see this. This is common UNC tactics. They are using the tactics they learned on each other. That's what's going on there. That was a whole comedy show with that protest. Yeah, it was a bit of a comedy. And people now getting standpipe under this PNM government, and they clapped so hard for 50-something years. Yeah. Politics could make a fool of us all. I'm now going to say I miss one life and baby make it. Nathan, is that true you make it? Oh, geez and ages. I saw Hannah pop up on live the other day. Could I swear you was in... I don't know what you guys are talking about. Let me stay out of that live chat. I don't know what you all are talking about there. But yes, they are using their own tactics on each other. And something I noticed inside of this, I think this shows you part of the argument I was making when I don't know how many of you saw the contemplation I did speaking about local government and the importance of the issues in local government. And I think this is a kind of local versus national kind of issue where what the UNC Women's Arm is protesting about they're protesting about national issues. They're protesting about crime. They're protesting about the divers. These are issues that could give you that national coverage, you want those national political points. But what these protesters are talking about are the quote-unquote bread and butter issues that have to do with their home and land ownership. I want to get what I think is mine, and I think these people are not getting it for me. Why are you asking about some nebulous thing? Why are you protesting about crime? And listen, I could understand the argument because the UNC leans much more to the kind of populist style of arguing, the populist side of government, where you are supposed to be doing what the majority of the people want. And if I cannot get land, I would like you to go out there and make some pressure for my land that I am owed, and instead, you are out there arguing about crime that no government has ever cleaned up and cured. Which government has ever stopped crime? Which protest has ever stopped crime? Go and get me my Carney lands. I could understand the argument. I honestly can. Checks by Newsday determined that Thomas was a former member of the UNC's internal election in December 2015. Amin claimed to Thomas and the ex-Carney workers about the intrusion complained to Thomas about the ex-Carney workers about the intrusion in the UNC's match. Protest against the government, Thomas countered. So why don't you, UNC, see that the Carney workers need help? Amin told Thomas, take down the sign. Protest against Prime Minister Rowley. Call on Rowley to give all of your land. Thomas stood her ground. She told Amin, read the signs. Amin yelled, look, girl, or you go from here. Funny stuff. So you don't care about Carney people? Asked Thomas. And here's the thing. This is a kind of argument between old guard and new guard of UNC in a kind of sense. This is a kind of argument between the old guard and the new guard of UNC. Because the old guard of UNC, the Carney workers, were their prime constituents. This was their base, Carney workers. If you go back to the UNC of 30 years ago, if Carney workers were protesting, the UNC had to stop and listen. But now we have a present UNC that is willing to talk to Carney ex-workers and tell them all you go from here because they are protesting about an incident involving 4 divers who rightfully had a tragedy and national crime. Nathan, I can try to get you to interview an ex-UNC minister if you want. I don't mind. I'd be interested. I'd talk. I have no problem talking to just about anyone. So I found all of this to be very interesting as it closes in on the local government election. Things became heated as Luch Medial and other UNC supporters came to Amin's defense, while ex-Carney workers backed up Thomas. In the melee that followed, former workers and UNC supporters shouted and gesticulated at each other, and the placard which led Kamala, you sleeping, wake up, was torn and dropped to the ground. UNC supporters shouted at the former Carney workers, Rowley must go, all your brainwashed, move from here. The former workers shouted back at them, brother, don't put your sign in front of me. We want justice. In the middle of all of this, Thomas was heard yelling, stop pushing. Police officers intervened swiftly to separate members of both groups. UNC supporters urged each other to continue with their march and not engage the former workers. Thomas later told reporters the former workers had written to Dr. Rowley and opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisesa requesting a meeting with them to discuss their concerns, but having not received their 2 agricultural plots, etc., etc. A month has passed. Nobody has responded to us. We are all over the media since February 14th. They have never acknowledged us. Thomas asked why the UNC Women's Arm was ignoring the plight of women from Kearney. They are women too, and predominantly, most of these people would have been UNC voters. She criticized the behavior of some UNC officials at the protest. A former worker added, that is the UNC opposition. They want to fight, and they want to fight down people. Thomas said, they mash up all of our placards just now. We came very peacefully, she added. The UNC was well aware of the ex-workers' plight, as they were in Penal 2 weeks ago when the Women's Arm held a protest against rising food prices. Why did they not acknowledge us? So, the accusations that this group is stalking the UNC Arm. But this is their protest technique. This is their protest technique. And I could understand the protest technique, and I wouldn't doubt it is pretty effective actually. Why? Because the Women's Arm would get the national media attention. So if you could go and create friction with the Women's Arm, look, you are making the news. So in a sense, their protest is effective. You could tell them you don't like their tactics, but you cannot deny that it is bringing attention to their complaint. Now, to add some curious things to this, in all of this, at the end of it, the ex-worker filed a police report against the UNC MP, saying that she assaulted her. So yes, there's a police matter now. It got that serious apparently. So, if this is happening internally within the UNC, and the full silly season of election hasn't even reached into full swing yet, what more is to come? I think we may be in for some theatrics in this coming election season. I think theatrics may be par for the course in the coming election season. Drop a comment, tell me what you think. If you are over there on YouTube viewing any of the times that you view, and it may not be live, in any repeat, drop a comment, tell me what you think. If you are live, feel free to take a comment. I do read the comments, and this is all I have for now. These are all the stories I have for now. I would have to bid you farewell now from both YouTube and Instagram, and well, actually not both. From all YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We had a late start, so we won't be having that afterlife chat over on TikTok either. What if it was all staged, White Walker says? Well, staged by who, for what purpose? That doesn't benefit the UNC, so I don't see why they would stage it. And well, it could be that the former UNC members are now working for the PNM, and that's not impossible, but who knows? Why you does do that, Roni asks. Well, I do that tonight because I started late and it's already late. So we won't have the time for that for that afterlife session. I won't read what Shiny Douglas says. All right. Thank you for tuning in to Mindful Life. It was nice. I appreciate you being here every single time. Tomorrow talk about, yes, I will. Sir, remind me about that as soon as you pop in the live tomorrow, sir. That's first up on the topic to talk about tomorrow. But I hope you're educated, informed, and entertained. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe I may be in this new studio again. I'll see you then. Peace out. Good night. Tomorrow, 9:30.